Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Kelly, for a rather incredible talk that you've given to all of us, that even I, that have been in this for a long time, and Cindy, and we find it quite a shocking rogues list that you've presented, and we would prefer not to think about it or what it means to our country. And that reminds me of what I'm told all the time now, that I'm not allowed to use the C word. Just don't use that word. You might upset the people at the local level, and I don't believe that at all. I think the people at the local level are perfectly capable of understanding the system that's being put into this country right now, and that's communism. Socialism is communism. You know, it's pretty close when the United Soviet Socialist Republic didn't use the word communism in their title. So let's use the correct words. Let's admit we're sick. If you have a family member who's very ill, remember, you don't allow members of the family to tell you to not tell them they have cancer, and not go to the doctor, and don't get it identified. You face it. If you have cancer, you face it. You try to kill it. Sometimes you can't. You get an MRI. If it's all through the backbones and all, you know, there's probably not a pretty good chance of catching it. But when you got cancer, you try to kill it. So we got a cancer in our country right now. And you can call it socialism or communism. You could call it something that sounds a little better, corporate fascism, which is the merge of the public-private sector, which is what we're seeing with school choice now. No accountability, no elected boards. Now, what I want to go back to, though, really is Kelly's list. Kelly's list, that sounds good. And Kelly's list was very, very complete. But there was one person that I want to bring up, mention her, because she was part of the Council for National Policy. And an elderly lady, she's gone now, her name was Rosalind Kress Haley. And she came from Texas. Her husband wrote an excellent book on Lyndon Johnson, I believe. And Rosalind was the grande dame of the Council for National Policy. And she never saw what they were really doing, which Kelly spelled out. She never understood that all of these friends of hers, which were friends of hers, were not considering the best interests of the United States as a constitutional republic. And until I knew her well, because I'd met her through Norman Dodd, who was a very close friend of hers. Norman Dodd, who was the research director for the congressional investigation of the tax-exempt foundations. And many of you have heard of the conversation that Norman Dodd had with the president of the Ford Foundation in New York City, where Rowan Gaither told Norman Dodd that the foundations received their funding from the White House, and had been receiving the funding from the White House for quite a while, and that the instructions were to use that money to change America so it could be comfortably merged with the Soviet Union. Now that's why I started this off with the C word, because that's what we're looking at right now. It never died. It was the phony fall, we can call it. But anyway, Rosalind was a great close friend of Norman Dodd's. I think she never really forgot anything about these hearings either. And so one day I was in touch with her and I said, Roz, you know, maybe we should go to the membership of the Council on Foreign Relations, no, the Council for National Policy that Kelly would say was sort of the same, the right arm, right, the right wing of it, and see if they'll help us with legislation that was sponsored by Representative Scarborough from Florida to get the United States out of the United Nations. Now let me point out, the United Nations has always been a communist organization. It was set up by communists, and UNESCO itself, all of its education advisors, 19 out of 20, were from communist countries. So let's get out of our minds that the United Nations is anything but a communist organization. So how to get out? So Roz and I talked about a little project, which was, I called it our postcard project, in which we would put down the most shocking information about the UN on a postcard. That's not an easy thing to do. And tell people to contact their legislators to support legislation to get us out of the United Nations. And we would put these postcards in bills that we pay, Christmas cards, under windshield wipers at the hardware store, everywhere. We would always carry them, leave them in doctor's offices and all. And we would ask people to contact, we'd give them contact information to contact their own congressmen, senators, whatever. I think we maybe had email then, I'm not sure. But telephone numbers, all that. And so that was our project. We thought it would be good. We'd cover the country that way. And so Roz wrote the letter, because it wouldn't be very good coming from me, since they were not very happy with me after I exposed the role of the Reagan Department of Education, basically. And so my name was Mud. So Roz signed the letter, and my son got all the addresses off of the computer for the CNP people. And we sent the letter off with a lot of very interesting articles that we had on Russian tanks, maneuvers in Mississippi or wherever, and some very, what we thought, rather controversial activities going on. This was the mid-90s, sort of. And off the letters went, about 300 or 400 of them, asking for help from the Council for National Policy that tells the whole country that they are conservative and they love our constitutional form of government and they want to save America, and off they went. And we never received a reply, not one. Well, I do think we might have gotten one. I have to give credit, I think it was from Traditional Values. We got one. I want to make a mistake about not giving credit there. And I was shocked. Yes, I was, but I think Roz was even more shocked, because these were all of her friends. And she'd worked with them for many years, and it was a tremendous disappointment to her to see that this organization really was not at all concerned with our concerns, and it had no problem, evidently, with the United Nations. So I wanted to back up Kelly in a way on this, and also to let people know that there was one wonderful lady, Rosalind Kress Haley, who also fell for the line of the Council for National Policy until we did this little project, which fell flat on its face due to their not wanting to participate in a movement to get the United States out of the United Nations. So that's what I have to say for today. Thank you, Kelly. I want to correct something I said earlier. I just realized that I'd said that in the conversation with Rowan Gaither, Rowan Gaither said to Mr. Dodd, "Mr. Dodd, we get our instructions from the White House, not money from the White House. We get our instructions from the White House on how to use the taxpayers' money to change America so it can be comfortably merged with the Soviet Union." So obviously the White House was not yet doling out money. So thank you for accepting my apology.